Hi, welcome back to another episode of Nobody's Doing It Right, the podcast for those who are uncertain. My name is Kat, I'm your host, and today's episode is going to be about feeling or wanting to be saved, and that nothing outside of yourself will save you. And I think this is a really important topic to discuss and to really internalize for yourself, because I think it is the root of a lot of our struggles and suffering, because deep down, we all, to an extent, want to feel safe and feel okay. Especially if our inner children are guiding our decisions or they're at the, behind the wheel of our car. So if you don't feel safe in yourself, in your mind, in your body, with your behaviors, with the things you do, whatever, you might look to other people or circumstances to save you, to be that person or thing that can save you from yourself, in a sense. And you attach these people. Maybe it's been conditioned in us from, Disney movies that show us that we get saved by a relationship or a partnership or whatever cultural stories we see repeated over and over again. It could also be from the concept of, being saved by your job. Like, your job should be your identity. And of course, work is something that we need to do. We need money to survive. So I'm not talking necessarily about how don't attach to money or the need for money. I just mean that sometimes we attach so heavily to the idea of our work as being this identity that's going to save us from ourselves, that it's the place where we can find refuge because it's something that proves that we're good enough. That can be part of it too, right? That can be something that you use to save you. But as I've had to learn from my own experience, right? If you are somebody who creates a lot of discomfort for yourself unnecessarily because of, again, maybe the way you were raised, the way you were conditioned to think or feel. If you create a lot of that for yourself internally, maybe you create anxiety for yourself, you put yourself into spirals because of, the belief that I should be suffering all the time, nothing comes easy to me, whatever. You create these cycles and self-fulfilling prophecies. There's nothing outside of you that will remove that from you, right? There's nothing outside of that you can go to find safety and peace, because it's always going to be with you. That need, those behaviors, the saying, wherever you go, there you are. You take yourself. And if in yourself you don't feel safe because you're doing things that make you feel unsafe, the answer is not to go find safety somewhere else. Even though I know logically you'd think it would be, or maybe in a more biological sense, you seek to find safety and shelter, and psychologically it might come in the form of a relationship, a partnership, or maybe a parental figure in your life, or work, or a boss, or something, right? But it's not going to work. You're always going to feel that discontentment within yourself because nothing outside of you can save you from yourself. You are your own worst enemy. And again, I'm just speaking to people who struggled with creating these feelings within yourself. Like, as an example for myself, I can get into the most intense anxiety spirals, and I know this about myself, and I can see myself doing it, but sometimes I get so lost in it, right, that you can't see your way out of it. Of course, I've gotten better throughout the years. I've cultivated more self-awareness to be able to pull myself out before it gets too dark and too deep, but I still get there, right? I can still put myself in this place where I'm the one creating my suffering. I'm the one who's creating this anxiety within myself because I'm allowing my mind to ruminate about certain things, or I'm allowing to make myself believe that this thing that hasn't happened yet is actually happening, or it's gonna happen, or it did happen. I'm letting myself do those things. And I know that it is, a protection mechanism, right? That's why my subconscious is making me do this, is bringing it up for me. It's to make me feel safe. So that's the only way it's known or been conditioned to believe is the way to do it. But of course, ironically, it's doing the complete opposite. It's making me feel unsafe. And so if I'm doing these things that I think, maybe one time would help me feel safe, but they're now making me feel unsafe, I'm going to run away from myself, right? Because I don't want to be around myself if this is how I'm making myself feel. If this is the internal space I'm creating, an internal environment I'm creating for myself, obviously I'm not going to want to be here with me. I'm going to want to be somewhere else. I'm going to run away from myself because I am trying to escape myself and find safety. And if safety is not here with me, I'm going to look for it somewhere else. And that can be in the arms of another person. It can be, again, with your work, with hobbies, whatever that might be for you, right? But there is no escape from it. And this is why, of course, the saying, the only way out is through. the only way to not maybe constantly put yourself in relationships, right? Like if you're somebody who, and this can also apply to fearful avoidant attachment, because fearful avoidants do cycle through relationships more often, maybe anxious as well. I just know this from my own experience as a fearful avoidant, but like you cycle through relationships because you feel unsafe and you do want connection, but then the connection also feels unsafe because oftentimes the connection is not rooted in any actual alignment with your intention and understanding of yourself. It's in alignment with the need for safety to escape yourself. So it's not even, the foundation of it isn't even like safe. It doesn't feel safe because it's not coming from an aligned place. So you cycle through relationships. You think, okay, I feel unsafe with myself. It's scary to be here by myself with me. I need to find someone else to save me from myself. You find somebody else. It's obviously not with an aligned intention or a foundation to it, an aligned foundation. So you get into a relationship with somebody who you think is going to save you. Maybe they mimic the characteristics of your parents growing up, and the dynamic of that was maybe rocky. So you are just replaying the same scenarios that still make you feel unsafe, thinking it's going to make you feel safe because it's all you know. So you get into a relationship with somebody who replays that for you. You feel unsafe there and you think, oh, okay, no, I have to leave. And then you come back to yourself, you feel unsafe with yourself. Okay, I have to go somewhere else and find it. I have to go find it in this thing or this person or this scenario or whatever. And it's just a constant cycle of seeking but never finding, because the only way to find that safety is within yourself, by looking at all the stuff you do, right? Looking at yourself truly in a mirror and seeing what it is that makes you feel unsafe and what you're doing or what you're allowing or whatever. Again, there are many things in life that we cannot control that make us feel unsafe. So I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the things that you know are in your control and that you are putting yourself through unnecessarily, right? And again, I don't want to say that it's your fault all the time, because you might have been conditioned to think that that's right. But I just want to encourage you that if you feel like this is something that you might be doing, to really let yourself explore it and have more awareness around it, just to try and see what it is. Again, for me, it is my need to have control, right? Feeling safe with control, but my control manifests in anxiety, because sometimes I feel like if I ruminate enough about something that makes me anxious, I'll have control over it. But all that does is make me more anxious. It stresses me out. It makes me feel like the thing that I'm scared of happening is actually happening, right? Because my body doesn't know the difference. So it's feeling all those, like all the cortisol. So it's thinking it's happened. So I'm putting myself through this, even if it hasn't happened yet. And now I feel unsafe. But the only thing that's creating this unsafety is me, is my own mind, you know? And I know this about myself and I'm seeing it. And the more I get to see it and really recognize it, the more and more I realize, like, okay, I know how to combat this, or I can develop tools to work on this so I do start feeling safer with myself. So for me, when it comes to this, the ways I've developed tools to feel safer with myself so that I don't feel the need to escape and run away and try to find someone to comfort me or to ease this feeling, right? Just by being around them or whatever, is I let myself see what it is that I'm struggling with, that I'm creating this pain and suffering for myself. And I try to do the opposite, right? Like I look at what it is I'm doing. Okay, what's the opposite thing of this right now? What is the opposite? Because the opposite is where the safety is, right? So for me, if I'm creating anxiety and stress and I'm making myself feel like it's happening and there's no way out of it, the opposite is for me to think that, or rather to tell myself, hey, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. You don't know if it's going to happen. And if it does happen, you can handle it, right? Because the control aspect is feeling like I can't handle it, right? So the rumination is that feeling of, if I think about it enough, I'll know how to handle it when it happens. But letting myself tell myself, comfort myself with the idea that, hey, if it does happen, it hasn't happened, but if it does, I believe that you are capable of handling it. So you don't have to put yourself through this suffering. It's not easy to flip this mindset, right? To flip this and look at it from that other, like, alternative perspective. But it does help me. It's what I've developed. And I know that the next time this happens, I will be able to lean on that again. This isn't to say that I can completely eradicate this feeling of unsafety within myself. I think it might always come up for me. Hopefully less and less as the years progress. But now I have the tools that I know I can reach into my tool belt and bring that out. So, but I would have never been able to do that had I not avoided all those things that I would run to for safety. You know, gotten rid of those things to lean on, those crutches, and really forced myself to sit with myself and face the thing that scares me so much, which is myself, which is the things I do to make myself feel unsafe. Had I not forced myself in that, removed all my crutches, I wouldn't have been able to develop what works best for me to make myself feel safe with myself now. And now I trust myself a bit more. The fact that I tell myself things that are actually compassionate and kind and not anxiety inducing, I feel safer with myself. I trust myself more. And I feel comfortable just letting myself be with me, right? And not having to always reach out to somebody else or look to something else to save me. This isn't to say that you can't have people in your life that help you, of course, right? Like that is the point of life, but not to do it from a place of constant need for saving, right? Having community and connection is important, but to always use it to save you from yourself rather than taking a bit of that accountability is not going to be beneficial for you, and it's not going to be beneficial for them, right? So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope it was informative and insightful for you. I hope it maybe like made something click in your own mind about this, because I think it is really important to talk about that there's nothing that's going to save you from yourself except you at certain points, right? Specifically with these things. Again, there's a lot of nuance to this topic too. I'm not saying that you're the only thing that can save you. This isn't about hyper-individualism. Community is important, of course, but I just mean it in terms of the things that you know you're doing to yourself, and that's why you're making yourself run away from yourself, right? So yeah, if you want to work with me one-to-one and talk about these things, you can book a call. If you want to read about the things I talk about, you can follow me on Substack and subscribe. And you can follow me on all my socials. All the links are going to be in the show notes below. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.